that out. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that red paint. Do you want premium ad-free content? Duh. Content that's not censored by big tech, of course. Well, with SD Insider, you can get behind the scenes and a whole lot more. Link in the description. Well, here we are again.
Yep, one more, one more again.
One more video. If y'all are wondering why Mike's been in so many videos lately, it's because we've been on the road, and we just had a brief layover at my place to get ready for the next event, and rather than him going all the way home, he's just been staying with me.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're back with me for another video. Today, I want to discuss e-bikes.
All right, yeah, that's a good topic. I think it's very relevant for the day and age that we live in. It's an up-and-coming thing.
The rooster agrees.
Yeah, the rooster agrees. And it's something that we really need to consider.
Man, I'm so thinking about fried chicken right now. He won't stop. We're gonna have to keep going with him.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, it adds to the authenticity.
Yeah, so I liken it to when we went from single action, double action weapons to striker fire weapons. I had a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that was very difficult for me. And if it hadn't been for somebody that was older that I respect, Ken Hackathorn, he's the guy that challenged me. He's like, you really can't speak from a place of experience unless you have the experience. Right? And so that was my dive into the e-bike world right there.
Yeah, and we have to be, at least have a functional knowledge of what's up and coming. What, you know, because it's out there and
we got to address it.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, the e-bike world is growing so fast. It's like exponential. Like, I cannot believe how fast this industry is growing.
Out of all the other brands out there, why Troxus?
Well, for me, it was pretty simple because here at SD, we've been given 33 to 35 of them, I think now. I'm losing count or whatever. And I mean, y'all see how many of them we actually put online. It's really important for us to bring you something that is... Golly, stupid chickens are going crazy this morning. It's really important that what we bring to you is valid.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to just bring crap to the table because, I mean, that's my reputation. Right. So with Troxus, the thing that I saw about them is it was a relatively new company compared to some of the other big names that are out there. And I really liked what the engineers were doing. I mean, number one, this is the old LYNX. This was my first bike. It was a secondhand bike. And y'all saw what I did in the video with it. I mean, I abused the heck out of that bike. And it passed the test.
Put it through the paces.
Yeah, and we had several other bikes that we did a ton of video footage on, and it did not make it. I mean, I rode that thing over railroad tracks, for crying out loud. You know, I was on road, I was off road. I ended up going 42 miles with it in hill country as well. The bike just really impressed me. It was stable at high speeds. I just really liked the bike. And I mean, number one, it's durable.
Yeah.
The LYNX itself is durable. I mean, if you just could see the welds up close, you would see what I'm talking about. And when you feel it, that's really the thing, is the feel of the bike.
You know, so it has, things of quality tend to have a feel of solidarity to them.
Yes.
You know, they have a certain heft. You know, you know when you pick it up, this thing, you get that instant feedback.
Yes, it's durable. And number two, it was maneuverable.
Right.
There's so many bikes out there that are for larger riders, and they have a larger platform, and they're kind of like a mountain bike style bike. But I can't just pick one of those up and throw it into the back of a pickup truck like I can this thing.
Right.
I can put it on the rack on the back of the vehicle. It doesn't weigh that much. It's 72 pounds or 78 pounds, I think, total. And that's with the battery. The thing is, a lot of people say with e-bikes that, let's say there was something that went wrong with the electrical system on them, like they're too heavy. Well, all you gotta do is take the battery out and you actually have a regular bike.
Right. And
with gears and everything.
The weight difference is negligible.
Right. Yeah, no, it's totally negligible by the time you take the battery out of it. So you're just riding a normal bike to begin with.
Right.
And then
that probably has better gear ratios than a normal bike would, because it's accounting for the weight of the battery. They're not planning on you taking the battery out.
Right, exactly.
It's real easy to get caught up in the sparkly of the new thing, and there's always something latest and greatest coming out. And so we take these things and we put them through their paces so that we can give you realistic feedback of what's its capabilities, what are its shortcomings.
Yeah, I hope y'all can appreciate that, because there were a lot of things in the video that we kind of can't communicate, I guess. Like I would come to a tree in the middle of a trail or off in the woods or something, and I could just lift that right over it, no problem.
And it's something that would take 2 pages of writing to communicate in words. We can just do a video on it and convey that same thing.
Yeah, not to mention all the other problems that I experienced with the other bikes.
Right.
I'm like, I told Chris, I can't not get behind this.
Yeah.
Like, I refuse to get behind this. And he would literally take that bike and send it back to the company and be like, no, we're not doing a video on that.
Yeah.
So,
But that's part of what we do for these companies too, is to give them that feedback. You know, you need to go back to the drawing board on this.
right.
And so there's been a lot of upgrades with this new one. I mean, I'm not an e-bike guy. I was drawn to them because of the practicality I saw right off of this conservation of resources thing. You know,
right. Yeah. No fuel, dependence on fuel.
Right. And then also your signature. So it had a very low signature versus rolling out in a fully kitted bug out vehicle. If you're just going out to do a sniff test, like you want to go check out and see, okay, so you conserve not only your physical resources of your body, your energy and your calories and things like that, but the resources that are still at home. And if you absolutely had to ditch it and beat feet back to the house,
You could.
you could.
Right. The stealth aspect of it, a lot of people say, well, they're not that stealthy, they're not that quiet. Well, this is way quieter than a motorcycle or a vehicle by
And
a
it's
long
going
shot.
to, and you know, when we talk about drawing attention to yourself, and so this is going to have much less of that factor into it than driving any vehicle, you know.
Well, that's another thing too. So you have all these newer bikes that look like motorcycles, right? I mean, they look like an actual motorcycle. This still looks like a bike.
Right.
And that's another thing too, is having a step through on the bike if you were injured.
Yeah.
You know, and I kind of had a hard time reconciling that myself, because I grew up with BMX freestyle bikes and it always had the down tube.
Right.
Right? And this one didn't have one. And it wasn't until I read about that I was like, oh, yeah, if you were injured, it definitely would help you to have the step through. And I think that appeals to people that are injured or people that are even older.
Mobility issues.
Mobility
you can't lift
issues.
your leg as high to get over it. And we saw, I mean, I did a little BMXing back in the day, and I saw early on what we called a girl's bike. You know, it had the double tube that came down. And so with a normal bike that had the flat down tube on it, it would hit the inside of your leg as you're trying to make a maneuver.
Right, exactly. It doesn't happen on this one.
Right.
Right,
So.
that's a big deal. And I just, overall, I mean, the original Lynx, now it was a secondhand bike. Now there needs to be full disclosure. After Troxus saw, I'm so excited about this, I can barely contain myself. After Troxus saw my original bike video, they sent me this one. It's the first time that I've had that happen where I agreed to do it. And the reason is because I believed in that platform so much.
Right.
Right. And now, and there will be a link in the description where you can get this one at a discount. Now, I myself personally am not making any money on it. I think Chris gets pennies on the dollar.
Right. But it's a
for
business
this.
relationship. It's a iron sharpening iron kind of thing.
But I'm really, really, really excited about this one.
Oh, absolutely.
It is the LYNX Plus.
Yes.
And they have, one thing I love about Troxus is they have listened to the audience. They've listened to the customer. They've listened to the content creators. I spent a lot of time online talking back and forth with Troxus, and there were some things that people didn't like about the Troxus LYNX. Number one was having cable brakes, but you've ridden this one.
Yeah.
I had no issues with the brakes whatsoever, even at speed, when I was going way faster than the
No, and some
capable
of that
bike.
some of that is because of our experience. We know how to apply extra pressure, and we know that you're not going to get as much feedback from a cable system as you are from the new hydraulic system.
Yeah, this is a hydraulic brake system, and it still has a name brand part on it too. They're Tektro brakes, and they still have the same rotors, same capability, etc. And I really kind of looked at this like it was good in a sense, because what if you break a cable brake? It's going to be easier to repair than it would be a hydraulic system.
That's true, you know, and there are points of failure, but most of the time, those things have been engineered to where it's possible, but it's not highly likely.
Right, exactly. But if it did happen,
Right.
and we're planners, you got to try to plan out for as many scenarios as you possibly can.
Right.
And I just felt like I was happy with it at the beginning with that bike. But now they listen to the audience and they're like, okay, you want hydraulic brakes, so we'll give you the hydraulic brakes.
Right.
Another thing was they added turn signals to the bike, right?
Yeah.
We already had a brake light, which was nice.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. But now they've got turn signals and they have hazard lights as well.
That's great.
You know, so just with the flick of a button now, I mean, before I was just raising my hand in the air like I'm turning right, you know,
Well,
I'm turning
and
left.
that's a dual purpose. So then you have a passive signal that you can turn that if you wrecked, if you're off in a ditch or something like that, or if you needed something to attract somebody's position, and so you're going to ditch the bike and you're going to go set up an observation point, you can set the bike up with the hazards on,
Right.
to draw their attention to that while you're watching what they're doing.
Yeah, so a means of signaling.
Yeah.
Now, and so that's all, you know, right there with the touch of a button. And then the biggest thing, and this is what really, because when I was talking to them online, I was like, you know what, the majority of our audience that's watching right now, they typically will work somewhere between 40 and 60 miles away from their home, right? And so if I'm going to have something like this at work, I want to make sure I'm going to make it.
Right.
Right. And in the last video, I ended up going 42 miles. And so I talked to them. I was like, look, I really wish, like, could we do like a dual battery thing? Or, you know, is there some way that we can increase this? We even talked dynamos and all kind of stuff. And what they eventually came up with was this bike has a cadence sensor on it. This bike has the ability to go between a cadence sensor and a torque sensor.
Wow.
Which means that now you can go even further than you could before.
Really? What's the difference?
Well, they said 60 miles if you were like 5'9" and 165 pounds on this bike.
Right.
That was the capability of it, right? Depending on conditions, etc., that may vary, you know. And for me, being a 6'2", 260 pounds, that meant that I got 42 miles out of it. But this bike has the capability of going 90 miles.
Wow.
And now that is a huge difference.
With the same battery?
Same battery, same, and that's something else too about, I'm glad you brought that up, is the controller. Something that I really like about Troxus is the engineers, they have designed the controller where it's actually more usable. Like there were several bikes that I tried out that you would pedal 3 times, up to 3 times, and the power wouldn't come on until the 3rd stroke.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or it would change. You know, maybe it's immediate, maybe it's not. And that's all related to the controller itself. So when you go to pedal this bike, you get the power immediate, but it's not like choppy. They don't give you all the power immediately.
It's still linear?
It's still linear, and so you still get what I would call applied power to it. And I really love that about this bike, because when you're riding off-road, the last thing you want is not to be able to control the throttle. It's like riding a 2-stroke bike.
And you hit the power
and you
band.
hit the power and, you know, it's up off the ground.
Front wheels in the air.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have that with either one of these bikes.
Okay.
And I really, really, really like that. And now that they have the ability to go even further, I'm like really excited about that. So if y'all want to see me do another adventure video where I test the limits of the bike, let me know in the comment section. I'm trying to think some of the other stuff that they added to it. Oh, it has 1 extra gear.
Does it?
Yeah, that one has 7 gears, Shimano gears. This one has 8 Shimano gears on it, which is another difference. I had a problem on one hill, but you've been up that hill.
Oh yeah, in a vehicle.
A wicked hill to go up. So now
I
have 1 more gear.
The hill that doesn't end.
To help me with that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know, was it a gear they added on the top end, the low end? Did they break up the gear ratio in the middle to give you, you know, I'd be interested to.
That's something we'll have to do
Yeah, we'll
on
have
the
to check
ground.
that.
I mean, we could do the math and everything else, but you know, I'm real big on being in the field and seeing how it works.
Right.
Right. I just want to know, does it work? Because I've told y'all before, specs are boring.
Yeah.
Like we could sit here and we could talk about a 750 watt this and blah blah blah. I mean, it's got a Bafang motor on it, which is an industry leader. It's got Kenda tires, the Crusades with a K. You know, it's just an awesome package altogether.
Well, I think what they're moving toward now, so they have the basics right. They have, and so now what they're working on is the end user usability.
Yep.
That's what they're working toward now. And you know, they've relocated the headlight from down at the fender to up on the handlebars, and that's going to increase your visibility for oncoming traffic, for people to be able to see you and stuff, you know.
And the only upgrade that I did was a seat. Yeah. That was the only thing that I changed on the bike.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, I think I'm going to go back to the old seat unless I find another seat. If y'all have any recommendations on better seats, let me know. But you know, I'm pushing these things beyond their limits when I'm going out on them. And the thing is, I'm not just using it for like an SHTF scenario, which I've already proven in previous videos. When my wife, when she was at work and there was the tornado,
right,
they started closing the roads down,
and
she needed a way to get home. I ended up doing a video based on that exact scenario with this bike, and I couldn't go the most direct route. I had to go the other way, the harder way, and that's where that video came from. The second video that I did, that was based on the cyber attack. When the phones went out,
the phones went down,
the gas stations were down, you know, we had no comms, etc.
And you don't want to take your vehicle out there to, you know, looking to see is there gas, only to find out there is no gas.
Right, exactly. Which there wasn't.
And there wasn't.
There wasn't.
You know, so that's what we call going out to do a sniff test.
Yep.
We're going to go check out the area and kind of sniff around, you know, see what's going on, see what everybody's doing.
And it works perfect for that. And I've been using it for other things as well. Like my son, one of my sons wanted to give his mom a radio for her birthday, right? So I took this, I threw it in the back of the pickup truck. I drove the pickup truck up to the shop, and then I pulled that out and I was able to go around town while they were installing the radio. I went and ate breakfast. I went and did some window shopping.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to drive around everywhere. And then, you know, I got to come back, throw it back in the truck, and then come home again.
Yeah, so if you were waiting to get your oil changed, get a set of tires.
You know, that's another thing. You just recently had an experience where a mouse chewed on your radiator hose.
On the radiator hose.
In the vehicle.
Yeah.
A brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee
it's 3 years old.
Right. It's a brand new vehicle, right? And how far away were you from town?
15 miles.
It was 15 miles.
I live 15 miles out of town, and this would be the perfect auxiliary vehicle. At least I could go to town and get a part and come back.
Right. So then, you know, like, because a lot of people talk about the price, and that's something that I want to communicate to y'all, because me and you just looked at brand new bikes. I can't remember the name of the store.
Cannondales and stuff like that.
Oh my God, they're so expensive. You can literally spend 10 grand on a bicycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not an e-bike, a bicycle.
Just, what do they call that, incumbent?
Like, it's getting stupid.
Or recumbent. Is that recumbent?
Recumbent?
Or I don't know.
Y'all tell us in the comment section. I don't know. But the point being is that, you know, our mouths were wide open. It was like, oh my God, I cannot believe how expensive just these regular bikes are. But this one, for $300 more, you get the torque sensor, which typically on any bike, an upgrade of a torque sensor is like $100 added to it. Then you also have hydraulic brakes, which that's another big one.
Yeah, if you know, one of the differences between that is between the cable brakes is this is based on your hand strength, and the hydraulic brakes is a force multiplier where it's not as dependent on your hand strength and everything. So
yeah, so if you have, you know, an injury,
right,
you know, the hydraulic brakes are definitely going to help you out for sure. But I really like the upgrades that they made to this bike. Like, I didn't think you could really make that bike that much better. Which, you know, another thing too is the payload capacity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can, I mean, besides what it will haul, itself, as far as the person goes, you can put 100 pounds on the rack. I mean, how awesome is that?
Yeah,
you know, you
absolutely.
could take your pack off. If you were tired of wearing your pack, you could put it on the back. I mean, you could haul groceries with this thing if you put a basket on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they do have the options of putting racks on these things as well.
And that would be, so if you went out and you had a gas can, you know, you could carry 2 5-gallon gas cans.
Oh my God, that would be so much better than hauling them.
Right.
Only people that have done this understand what we're talking about.
Or 2 of the, 5-gallon water cans.
Water too, right. Yeah.
And so that way you can join in with what everybody else is doing, and you can look like you're out there getting the FEMA food.
Right.
Without letting them know what you got at home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something to think about as well.
Yeah, you don't want to be the only guy that's like, well, we've never seen you in the soup line.
Right. So I guess what I'm getting at is these are budget bikes. Anything in the industry that's under $2,000 is considered a budget bike. And a lot of people want to argue with that, but you need to see what's out there.
I think realistically, we're in a different era now. And what was considered a budget bike just 4 years ago, obviously everybody knows we're in a different paradigm now.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And, so,
if you want to play, you got to pay.
Right.
Is what that boils down to.
But this is much more stowable. It's compact. It's easier to keep. I would like to have a secondary vehicle, but you're talking about maintenance and upkeep. And so this is a trade-off. Yes, it's $1,700 or whatever. But I could go buy a vehicle. You can't get anything that runs and drives and goes down the road for less than $3,000.
Unless you're a mechanic and
right.
What's up.
It's just not happening. And then you've got the maintenance and upkeep on that vehicle, so it's a trade-off. And I think you would come out cheaper as an auxiliary vehicle for having something like this versus buying a beater.
And let's talk. That brings up something else in my mind, because we have a lot of trolls.
Really?
Yeah, we have a lot of trolls out there.
You have a fan base.
Yeah, and that means you're doing something right when that happens. But one of the most common questions that's out there or points I guess they bring up is, well, it's an electric bike and the EMP is going to knock it out.
Nobody truly knows.
Okay.
That is the facts right now. There are a lot of people that can make super educated guesses.
That's a 1% of the time type of thing. All right?
Right.
But if there is an EMP, my whole point is, number one, did that EMP come from a nuclear device?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to have bigger problems.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that when the rocket comes down and the warhead explodes, it doesn't always hit the ground and explode. They can determine how high up in the
altitude,
air, so they can extend that first energy wave that comes
umbrella
down,
type effect,
the EMP that actually comes down, and you're going to have way more problems than worrying about your e-bike.
Yes.
The motorcycles that people always bring up, the 1970 down vehicle people always bring up, or the Harley, or whatever.
Well, we talked about that the other day about the only thing I could think of would be some kind of pre-electronic ignition or electronic engine control diesel, and then you still have to heat up the glow plugs.
Right.
I don't want to try to push start or bump start a Cummins.
So the way I look at it is, okay, any other type of SHTF scenario, which I've already done 2, and I've got a 3rd one planned as well.
Oh, okay.
So if y'all want to see a 3rd video, let me know, using the bike, because I do have another scenario that I think would play out for these bikes, for sure.
And we have to put some guardrails on certain things, and as far as the theories and the what ifs and things like that. And granted, in the last few years, there have been a lot of things that have moved over from the category of probability to possibility.
Yeah.
Like that has changed. There's been a lot of things that have been bumped up, but still, an EMP, I mean, I don't know.
Very low chance compared to some of the other stuff that could be out there. And the thing is, I just don't want, these are taking off. They're becoming huge. There are more and more companies on scene every single day. I see stuff that looks cool, but once I get my hands on it, like the controls are too crowded. It's not ergonomic.
Right.
The seating position is off. My arms go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, just that kind of stuff. And I don't see any of those problems with these bikes. Like,
No.
I'm totally comfortable on these bikes.
Yeah, they kept the stuff that worked, and they listened to the people, and they upgraded the stuff that was requested.
And I like that they almost sent us a color that was close to Field of Fire's color. It's not exact, but it's close.
We don't have the sparkly.
It's
we don't have
it's closer to it or whatever.
Shine.
But man, it's beautiful.
shine bright like a diamond.
Like, it's a gorgeous bike.
It is.
I mean, this thing is
it's
beautiful.
a good looking bike.
Or whatever.
You know, as a teenager, I would have.
I would have killed for one of
Killed
these
to
when
have
I was a
something like
kid.
that. Yeah.
And I think too, there aren't many of the other bikes out here that actually have the BMX style bars, and you get so much more control when you're off-road.
Yeah, and these have, so you can look at the bars and you can see how it's a tapered tube.
Yep.
That actually lightens the bar up with not losing any of the rigidity and control. See how it's thicker down here at the bottom than it is up here?
Yep. No,
So that's an engineered thing.
they've done an awesome job, and I mean, all this suspension is adjustable. You can open it, you can lock it. I love the fenders,
Yeah.
which are actually metal and not plastic like some of the other ones are. I just think they did a good job of balancing everything.
Right.
That's what it is for me.
Well, and they're coming at it, I'm sure, from the standpoint of they're wanting to make something that fits the vast majority of people, as many people as possible, you know. And so,
Well, this one was literally designed to be on-road and off-road.
Right.
And they have more expensive bikes out there. If you want to check those out, you can. I just felt like for us, in our industry, this was the best one that you could get.
is this kind of like their middle of the road kind of, price range and stuff?
They have other ones, and there are other styles too. I need something in the middle, right? I don't want it to be a huge bike, because I want to be able to throw this thing around if I need to, because I love the rigidity
Yeah.
of this bike. Like, it feels solid when I'm riding it. So for me, that's why I chose to go that route at the beginning. And I'm just over the moon that they sent me this one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really excited about it.
Well, and that's part of, metal fatigue, the frame flex, and so you want a more robust frame. That's what he's talking about. That's some of the feedback that we got from the BMX days and stuff, is you could feel the frame flex, and then you start having welds crack. And
Right. And I haven't had any of that with that bike, and that was my bike, and I really put it through the ringer.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it held up.
Not
So-
just me either, but I don't know, 50 people have probably ridden this. Because
Yeah, we went to that big event in Georgia and everything, and it got a lot of use down there.
Yeah, people got on it, they started riding, and they didn't want to stop.
Right.
And the thing is, I didn't have to change the battery the entire weekend.
Really?
With it going like
held up that
constantly,
long?
people were riding it all the time. I don't know if I'm going to take this one, because I want to kind of...
Keep it.
it's my first new bike. I've never pulled one out of the box before.
Yeah. I'm gonna we're gonna keep it at home, keep it shiny.
Yeah, like I'm afraid Debo's gonna take it from me.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to go over the e-bike thing, because it is such a big deal right now, and there's a lot of people who are commenting who aren't speaking from experience, and I would have been one of those people. Like, at the beginning, I was very resistant to this. It wasn't until I got my first one, and then after that, I've gotten to ride a bunch of bikes since then.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of them, and I still love that bike. That's still my favorite bike, and now they've just made it even better. And so now they have a link they can go to in the description box where you can actually get a discount on it now. And
that's cool.
They literally just came out with it. Like,
That's
it's
cool.
brand new, just came out on their website. You should go and you should check it out. But I kind of want to know what y'all's thoughts are on the e-bike subject, because I know how awesome these things are now, but that's based on my experience.
Right.
And I've used it in real life twice for 2 SHTF scenarios. If I had had this bike when I was in search and rescue, that would have been a game changer.
Yes.
Right there.
Think about how the terrain you could cover and the miles you could cover
And
quickly.
be quiet and still be able to hear as well. I really just can't, I don't think there's anything right now on the market that's beating that.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have drones, and we have, RTVs, and we have motorcycles and all that. But man, I wish I'd had one of these back
Well,
then.
it's like having, so in your toolbox, you have multiple size wrenches and
Yes.
everything. And so this fits a task.
It is another tool in the toolbox, and that's all we're saying. We're not saying it's the end all be all. We're just saying that this is a great tool to have should you need it. And I do realize a lot of people are on budgets, right? They can't, or maybe they don't have space at work to keep the bike at work. But like with mine, since we go to these events so much, I just got a cheap Harbor Freight motorcycle carrier, put it on the vehicle, and it ain't nothing for me to pick this thing up and put it on the back of the vehicle and just take it
It's manageable.
with me everywhere. I mean, it's no different than you carrying a bicycle on a rack on the back of the vehicle. Rooster's having fun with us today. We're thinking about fried chicken. If you're Honey Smack digging the video, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and until next time, keep fueling those fires. What do you guys say now? Huh?
What's up?
And now they won't say a frickin' word.
No, it's over now. The roosters are done.
Yep.
Little bastards.